Hey everybody, welcome to this week's episode of the Patty G Show. We sit down with Jeff and John from DPI. We are talking anesthesia, we're talking clinics, we're talking what do you do when you lose power. All that stuff coming your way, brought to you by Falia, Lakeman's Health Center, Cortec, and PB&J Productions. Enjoy the show. We're here with y'all talking about DPI anesthesia. What is it? First off, who are y'all? Let's start there and get a little background and how this came to be.
I'm Jeff LeBlanc. I am currently the Chief Compliance Officer at DPI Anesthesia. How did the whole thing come to be?
What's your lead us up to the point of DPI? Who were you before DPI?
I was just Jeff LeBlanc. So we are CRNAs, certified registered nurse anesthetist, and we met in nursing school at USL. In the 90s.
Okay.
Yep. So we ended up graduating together in the 90s. We went our separate ways for several years, probably 3-4 years, I forget. And then by total coincidence, ended up in anesthesia school together at Xavier University at Charity Hospital in New Orleans. And graduated there, ended up at the same facility working as a W-2 person, and had a really bad experience doing that. It lasted about a little over a year, and that was the last group that I worked for besides DPI. So that's how it came to be.
So before we get into your story and kind of a collective question, well, I guess let's do yours. What's your background getting up to that?
Not to be boring, but it's the same path. Went to nursing school with the thought of going to medical school. When I finished nursing school, went to work the night shift, and as I was working on the night shift, went to school during the day to finish up my requirements to get into LSU medical school. So I did all that and got all the way to acceptance, and had a lot of personal issues going on at the time, and couldn't right in my right mind really commit to med school. So I asked for a 1-year deferral, and the ICU that Jeff and I had worked at as nurses had several of those nurses go to Charity for anesthesia, and 2 of them talked me into just applying, just see what happens. And I did, and I got accepted, and that's the path that I took for anesthesia. When we finished, like Jeff said, we worked for an older anesthesiologist in New Orleans who was on his way out, and the group just wasn't very well managed. A number of the issues that the group had were easily solvable, but it just wasn't going to happen. Eventually, he lost the contract, and we went from, I think we started out during the summer of 2001, we were 22 CRNAs in the group, and by the summer of 2002, we were 5. And wow. Jeff, myself, and who would be our third partner starting DPI were 3 of the 5. The other 2 ended up staying in transition. We ended up leaving. Jeff had a wife and 2 kids, so he had to go to work. Scott and I, the third partner, didn't. So we had fun. And so we had, it's still probably some of the 3 best months of my life. Sorry, honey, I had to say that. But
what did you do in those 3 months?
It was like, well, here's the deal. We were single. There was 3 of us living in a really nice house in New Orleans, and it was the summertime. So we didn't have a job, but we had money. We didn't have a whole lot of bills, so we had a whole lot of fun. And we did that until September. And in September, we decided, okay, it's probably time to start looking for some work. And almost simultaneously, we went to a continuing education meeting in the Cayman Islands. It was a dive trip. Jeff brought his wife. and Scott and I brought our girlfriends, who might have been a bit younger than we were, and it was a lot of fun. It was a great trip.
I guess so. It's the Cayman Islands for continuing ed.
One of those evenings in the pool, we decided we were going to start a company, and we were going to name it Diversified Professionals Incorporated. And when we got back, we were going to make it happen. And next morning, we kind of replayed the story at breakfast and made sure that's really what we wanted to do, and that's really what we said. We came back, and there it started.
So had y'all maintained contact? I mean, obviously you weren't there partying with them because you were living the
I was living vicariously through them.
Right.
As I was working, trying to support the wife and 2 children. Yeah.
But like, did y'all stay in touch and stay in communication?
Oh,
and
sure.
was it always a discussion y'all wanted to do a business, or was it not till,
it really wasn't till kind of that moment in the belly up bar at the pool that it kind of happened. Yeah.
Right. So Scott and I were on the fence as, do we just go get a job? Do we try to do it on our own during the summer? And then once we went to on the trip, collectively, we decided, all right, the market's in a place where we were the owners, but we were also the producers. So we go to work, we make money, we can support the business and do the work. And so that's how we started.
Okay. So what is the business of anesthesia for those that are unfamiliar with it? Everybody kind of sees it on TV and in the medical shows, like the person just sits at the end. But like, what is the actual business of it? What do you do?
So there's 2 pieces to that. There is performing the service. So as a clinician, we're trained to do anesthesia, not necessarily run a company. So we are the people that you meet before you have a procedure or you go into surgery, and we do a history and physical, make sure the anesthetic plan matches what your surgery is planned for, and we put you to sleep, which is free. And then at the end of the surgery, we wake you up, which is where we get paid.
Okay.
So
okay. That was all the same cycle.
It is.
Yeah.
And some that may not want you to wake up.
So that's really what the clinical aspect of anesthesia is. And right now in today's world, we're involved in so much more than just the operating room opera. We're involved in offices, ambulatory surgery centers, outside of OR, spaces that use us for sedation, like cath labs, GI centers, things of that sort. And then on the business side, you have to find a way to get paid for that service. And anesthesia is not really an easy specialty in that regard, because we don't meet the patient until 5 minutes before they go to sleep. And we rarely see them after surgery unless they're in the hospital and we're doing just a post-op round. But none of those interactions are obviously financially related. So in order to collect the dollars, you bill insurance, you bill Medicare, you bill Medicaid. We are one of the lowest, probably, I would say radiology is about the only lower paid medical specialty for the services provided. So you bill those and you collect from those, and then you collect whatever deductibles or copays from the patient. That generally is never enough to support the practice. So whatever facility that you're working at will subsidize your payments in order to have the service.
Okay.
It's a unique specialty in that it's absolutely necessary, but it does not support itself on its own merit.
Got it. So you got talked into it, but it sounds like you made the free decision to go this route. What drew you that way to this specialty?
For anesthesia?
Yeah.
That's a long winding path. So
we got time.
was not my so rewind a whole bunch. Did not think I was going to college in high school, so didn't plan accordingly. So that's what I would tell my 16-year-old self, plan accordingly. So that was not in the cards. When I got out of high school, I moved out of my home and senior year of high school. I was just turned 17 years old, living in an apartment. Literally the story, walk to school, that whole thing. Worked as a bag boy at Albertsons, courtesy clerk as they call them. And then when I worked as a video store clerk and then a video store manager before I was 18.
Blockbuster?
No, Shorties. I don't know if you're familiar with Shorties. It's individually owned. The one I managed was on North Forster, so you can imagine the stories that I would have to tell there. But so anyway, then I went work at a warehouse, and it was really hot and not very fun. So I figured I needed to do something not with my life. So I didn't have any money. I was really, really poor, and but I was determined at that point to do something different. So I looked at the military, and I kind of in between the Marines, long history in the family of Marines, and none in the Army. And so I essentially did all the preliminary work to go in the Marines, and then I found out in that process about the Army National Guard at the time was essentially paying your tuition to go to school. I think they still do in certain circumstances, but so I went that route. So I joined the Army. The quickest thing I could do was at 11 Bravo, which is an infantryman. Went to Fort Benning, did my boot camp, my AIT, and then went to USL. And it was all remedial courses for the first year because my ACT and grades were terrible. I was in kind of general studies, political science at the time, didn't really know what I wanted to do. My sister, who still is an RN, an ICU, was basically saying, hey, why don't you look at nursing? You can always have a job. Blah, blah, blah. Like, I don't know if I want to do that. Then literally how it happened one day, I'd gone a year and a semester of school, and I had to pick a major basically because I had exhausted all of my remedials and that sort of thing. And this will tell my age. So I'm thumbing through the book of professions or degrees at USL, literally thumbing through the book. And I was like, let me look at nursing. So I look at it and it's like, oh, it's a lot of science, math. I'm decent at math. I'm good at science. Very few Englishes and no foreign language. That's it. I declared it my major, and shortly after that, Desert Storm hit. We got activated for Desert Storm, which set me back. We didn't deploy because by the time we had trained up at Fort Hood, everything was over and they sent us home. But it set me back academically for 6 months, so I missed that part. Ironically, it gave me the opportunity to meet John and my wife, who was also a nurse in our class. So it all kind of worked itself out. And then went through nursing school. I knew I never wanted to be a floor nurse or anything like that. Didn't know what I wanted to do, but I knew it wasn't that. And then I worked in several different ICUs at night. Started at Earl K. Long at night right out of school. Figured out real quick I didn't know anything. It was a very humbling experience, and but I learned a lot there. And then my wife and I, after we got married, we weren't married yet, got married, we decided to do some travel nursing. And so I would intentionally go work at different, I'll skip the spot. I went to Southwest in Lafayette, where John and I worked together. And then I applied for anesthesia school and didn't get in the first time. They said I didn't have enough experience. So then I went and traveled, and I intentionally picked university or trauma hospital ICUs to go work in around the country. So University of New Mexico, Swedish Hospital in Seattle, and University of California, San Diego. And they're trauma ICU, and then applied, got into school, and then reunited, total happenstance with John. And that's kind of how it happened.
So y'all both started out working nights.
Yes.
Did.
I don't think I've ever worked days.
So what's the draw to nights? Because I've got a buddy of mine, he's been working nights for years, and I'm like, what's the draw there? I mean, you were wrapping up school and all that, and like,
well, at the time it paid more.
Okay.
So out of school, I think I made a whopping $12.45 an hour with the night diff in ICU right out of school. But so it pays a little bit more. You have a little bit more freedom at night because there's less people around. Teaching hospitals, especially, you have a lot of folks coming during the day. They round a whole lot. You have to go do a lot more tests during the day. You have to go to CAT scan. They have to do this or that during the daytime, whereas the nighttime, you just take care of the patient. So you have a little bit more freedom. The crew is a little bit more laid back during the nighttime than the daytime. All the managers are at home, so
You're just there making sure everybody stays alive through the night.
yes, that's correct. That's correct.
Okay, so how'd you get into nursing?
So I got into nursing. I started out at Northwestern State on a tennis scholarship, and
Really?
when I arrived, we had our meeting 2 weeks before school. Team got together, and the coach delivered the news they were ending the program. I was like, okay, that's awesome. And so I didn't know what was going to happen. I was like, do I need to change dorms? Do I need to, what do I need to do? And didn't have to do any of that, and somehow kept my scholarship. I just started out Bachelor's of Science.
Wait a minute. You kept a scholarship when there was no program.
It gets even better.
Okay.
And so
all right.
Went to the financial aid thing, got all my stuff done. What I owed was nothing. I said nothing. Went through the year and wanted to get into nursing. Basically, working. A friend of the family was a nurse, and again, he said, "Look, you can do anything with a bachelor's of nursing degree. You can do business, you can do law, you can do medicine." And my cousin and I both knew him and went out to dinner one night. And my cousin ended up a nurse that went to med school. He ended up going to med school. But the whole premise was sales, whatever education, whatever field you want to end up in, more probable than not, you can do it with a nursing degree. I was like, well, that makes a whole lot of sense. And then if you don't want to do anything else, you can make a living and support a family as a nurse. And so that made a whole lot of sense to me. And when I started researching nursing schools, USL had one of the highest passing rates in the state. So if you got through the program and made it through, you had a 97, 98% chance of passing. And so I transferred to USL, went through the same whole thing, financial aid, scholarships. I applied for extra scholarships thinking, there was going to be a shortfall. I never had to pay.
Wait a minute.
My scholarships followed from one state institution to the next, and I never paid.
Your tennis scholarship.
My tennis scholarship that I never set foot on a court for and played a single point, paid for my academics for 4 years, and I made sure I finished in 4 years. And
didn't want it running out.
That's right.
What's the statute of limitations?
That's right. It was only good for 4 years. I have no idea. I never said a word. My mom and dad were like, just keep it to yourself. Don't say anything. If they say you owe something, and then pay it. But I have no idea to this day how that happened.
So, no coach ever came up to you, even in like USL, and say, "Oh, I see we're paying your scholarship. Like, let's get you on the court."
Nobody did, and I was not good enough to play at USL. I talked to those coaches in high school, but I wouldn't have made their team. And so it was that was one of the it was a jewel. No reason or explanation for it.
Wow.
Yeah.
Have you ever gone back to the university and like talked to them, or like
Of course.
maybe made a donation in the amount of your tuition?
Absolutely. No, I didn't. But it was very generous. We did do this though. We were the state's anesthesia department at Charity Hospital for 2.5 years, and we were paid $263 a month.
So you've given back, and you've given back.
I feel like I've given back to the state.
All right, you've made up for the. Somehow you got a fake scholarship to a defunct team, then transferred it over to another team.
Right.
Okay.
Welcome to the brand new Falia mobile app. We took all the same tech that's helped hundreds of people sell their homes themselves and packed it into an easy-to-use app for your phone. When you download the Falia mobile app on either the Apple or Android App Store, you'll immediately be able to see the power of this game-changing tool. From the seller's dashboard, you can navigate to all the information that you need. We intentionally separated everything into key groups, such as tasks to be completed, buyer leads for your listing, and contact information for everyone involved through closing. When you get an offer on your property, you can simply review and respond all within the app. No matter where you are in the world, you'll be able to monitor everything that's going on with your property from listed to sold. It's truly the power of Falia in the palm of your hand. Download the app and see for yourself. Falia, it's real estate reimagined.
So then you graduate, you are both in nursing, and then you get into the next set of schooling. How long is that generally?
For us, it was 28 months.
Okay.
They've extended it now, so it was a master's degree when we finished. They've made it a doctorate degree now. But what is it, 36 months?
It's 36 months
36
now.
months.
One of the issues with nursing is there's different levels of education. There's different licensing, and anesthesia was no different for a long time. One of our partners was a diploma nurse and a diploma anesthetist. So
what does that mean?
So in other words, you could come right here to the Baton Rouge General and go to nursing school. It was 12 months, 18 months, and become a nurse. So you took your nursing board, you became an RN.
Okay.
And you could apply to anesthesia school, which was just another diploma. So there didn't have to be a baccalaureate degree. You didn't have to have a master's degree. So from, I would say, the 80s until now, over the course of those, let's just say 40 years, it's progressed to a diploma degree. Then there was a brief period of time where it became a bachelor's degree to be a CRNA. Then it became the bottom, the minimum was a master's degree, which is when we went through. And they have recently, within the last 10 years, it's become a doctorate degree. So you're going to graduate with a doctorate of nursing or a doctorate of anesthesia practice now if you apply to anesthesia school. So and it's a 3-year degree. So it's probably about 8 more months. It's basically just the introduction to a dissertation is a research project is the difference between what we have and what the classes are graduating with now.
Okay, so now they have to do a research project and write up all of that
and
stuff.
they get the doctorate.
Okay, so they walk out as doctor nurses.
Correct. Which is really confusing.
That's
That's
very confusing.
You'll never be called doctor, but yes.
So are the ones now called doctors?
No. Not in the hospital. They're called doctors, which is appropriate. I don't feel it's appropriate in the hospital setting or the clinical setting. It's misconstrued that way, but in the academic setting, they are.
Correct.
Okay. Yeah, it's like my father-in-law's got a doctorate in engineering.
Exactly.
And call him doctor. And you go to I think they were somewhere and like my wife, somebody needed help. My wife was like, "Oh, my dad's a doctor." And he was, I'm not that type of doctor.
Not a medical doctor.
Like, I'm not a medical doctor.
What's really confusing is when you walk up to a patient, many times they will automatically assume you are a doctor.
Correct.
So they will call you doctor. And you may be a doctor, but not a physician.
So how do you handle that interaction of like you walk into the room and they go, "Hey doctor, how's it going?"
I always introduce myself as a nurse anesthetist.
Okay.
That's what
Same here.
Which is what we are. We're nurse anesthetists.
And do they ever ask, what's the difference?
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh,
Okay.
you explain.
All the time.
You explain.
I usually talking about $300,000.
Yes.
Worth of school bills. So,
That's right.
so from start to finish now, it's 7 years worth of schooling that's taking place.
I mean, you could get your, if you streamlined everything, so you could do your bachelor's in 4. You need a minimum of 1 year experience in a critical care area. That can vary, and then 36 months on the backside. So, 4, 3, so 8 years.
So you have to get your experience before you can go back.
Yes.
Correct.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Correct.
You said in a critical area?
Yeah. So intensive care unit. Some it depends on the school. Most schools require critical care, like ICU experience. Some will accept ER experience. Some will. Very rarely now that they accept PACU experience, but they used to, like the recovery room. When there was a really in the early 90s, they were accepting recovery room. I don't think they accept that much anymore. But so critical care area, minimum of 1 year, and you can apply to anesthesia school.
Okay. Why is it focused solely on the critical care area?
Because that's basically what anesthesia is.
Okay.
Right. So critical care, you have to learn how to manage patients that are not stable. And you have to learn how to manage ventilators, learn how to manage inotropic drips, so medicines that keep people alive and keep their blood pressure and vital signs stable. In anesthesia, there's 2 big pieces. One is the patient stays still. They're unconscious, so there's no memory of it. And then there is the vital signs. And so 90% of anesthesia is very, it's I don't want to say boring, but it is very repetitive. The 10% is a big challenge, and you have to know what you're doing. And so drawing on that ICU experience, I think, is key. I think the longer you can work in an ICU and deal with, like Jeff did, trauma, cardiac cases, big lung cases, neuro cases, the better equipped you'll be as a nurse anesthetist. You'll be able to draw on a lot of those experiences in your day-to-day practice.
Yep, there's a lot of overlap. So if you've dealt with that in an intensive care setting, you can deal with that in the OR. You don't want it the first time you've ever seen a code or a crash or a ventilator issue, or they're managing their pressures, trying to keep the patient stable in the OR for the first time. You can tell who's had what experience when they come through as students. It's very obvious their background without asking one question. Where did you work? So, very obvious.
So every general anesthetic that we do, and sometimes sedation induces a respiratory arrest. And so handling that on a day-to-day basis all day long, the experience is valuable. The experience is valuable.
Yeah. So 9% of the time you're just hanging out reading a newspaper, and then the other 10% of the time you've got something happening.
I don't think there's a lot of newspapers around much anymore.
No.
But a lot of the time it's a pretty straightforward routine deal.
It's monotonous. Yeah.
10%, you got to know what you're doing.
Right.
So what are some of the 10% stories that you've had? Because I know you've had them.
Absolutely.
There's a full gamut. Just from, having a very sick person coming into the OR where you expect problems and you try to prepare as best you can. You've got pre-made inotropic drips ready. You put in additional lines, central lines, A lines. You kind of have a mindset. All right, this is gonna be a challenging case. To the ones that always get you are the ones that someone comes in, looks like you put them to sleep and they don't do well. So those are the ones that are the most challenging. Those are the ones you don't expect. But again, having that background and that confidence, and the training and the experience to know how to take care of that person. That's invaluable.
Yeah, I remember we were covering a hospital, small hospital. This was 15 years ago, and we were doing vascular surgery in a smaller rural hospital. And of course, it was a Friday evening, 7:30. We're starting the case, and it was a younger surgeon, inexperienced surgeon, but a very straightforward case. And we're about 2 hours into the case, and we're starting to order blood, and the patient's becoming more unstable. My wife, who is a physician's assistant, worked with that vascular group at the time. And right about that time, I just sent her a text message, "Hey, can you come in?" And she was like, we had little kids at the time. I said, well, I'm going to need to find somebody to watch the kids or whatnot. And within probably 30 minutes, we were hanging blood. They were now on drips. And so I just called her and I said, look, this patient's about to die. He needs some help, and I really need you to come in. And sure enough, she did. And we made it through fine, but kind of being in a position to anticipate what's going on and knowing what's going to happen if we don't do something different, and making calls. I think the OR is a place where a lot of people are looking at anesthesia just to make sure the patient stays stable. The surgeon has the surgery part down, but everything else falls on anesthesia, the anesthesiologist and the CRNA. So being able to anticipate and act appropriately I think is key.
This episode of the Patty G Show is brought to you by Cortex. Cortex is the trusted technology partner for small businesses across Louisiana, delivering managed IT, cybersecurity, and smart strategies to help you leverage AI without the confusion. I mean, aren't we all confused by AI nowadays? As a locally owned company, we understand the challenges Louisiana businesses face and provide tailored solutions that keep your operations secure and efficient. Whether you're looking to strengthen your cybersecurity or explore how AI can give your business a competitive edge, Cortex is here to help. Be sure to mention the Patty G Show and receive a free cybersecurity risk and analysis to see where your business stands. So how much beforehand conversations are you having with the doctor or the surgeon that's actually going to be there performing the procedure?
So routinely, very little. I mean, you when you work together, you kind of know the routine, his routine, what to expect. You usually have those kind of conversations when there's that red flag or that aha moment. You said, hey, this is off. Let's make a plan for this. Or what are you thinking? The patient may be really too sick to go to surgery, but he's going to insist on going for whatever reason. They need to go. And so you have that conversation prior to them going back. If it was just a routine, regular surgery, that you know each other, you know what to expect on his end. He knows what to expect on our end. It's just, basically, can we roll? And you interview the patient. There's no red flags. You just do your job.
So they're giving you like their whole case beforehand for you to review and go through? Or what's that prep on your end look like?
Yeah, we review the record. So it's really very quick.
Okay.
So surgery moves at a very relatively quick pace. So I think John mentioned it earlier, alluded to it earlier. Sometimes you literally have a couple minutes to look at the chart, discern the important medical history of the chart, all of the allergies, the medications, their prior history, lab tests, what surgeries they've had before, kind of digest it, and then speak to the patient, and then kind of make sure that all of this is accurate and ask them all those questions again, and make sure there's nothing that you're missing. Sometimes that happens in literally a couple minutes, and that's the only interaction you have with that person before you go back and put them to sleep. most of the time it's 2 to 5 minutes at most.
Wow.
At most. If it's the trauma case, you don't even get that. I mean, you just go.
So, and as far as like the actual drips and all that stuff, it's prepared by you, the hospital. How does that work?
So the hospital provides all of the equipment. They provide all the medications. We get our medications from pharmacy. We have machines we can dial into and get out whatever narcotics or drugs we need for that particular case. And then we draw them up, mix them, administer them.
Have you ever been in a situation where you ran out during the middle of a procedure?
I can't say.
I've never run out.
You always have alternatives. So if there's something that you're out of, generally there's something else that can be substituted for it. But I can't think of any case that I've ever been in that there was a specific medicine that we needed that we didn't have. The pharmacy does everywhere is going to do a really good job to make sure their par levels are where they need to be. And if there is a shortage of something, which that does happen, then there's substitutes or alternatives.
You have to make an alternative plan. But you kind of know that going into it. It's not over out.
Yeah, you never sit there in a 2-hour surgery and it turns into 8 and you're like, oh, we need more.
Oh, all the time. But
that happens?
Yeah, that happens. But there's always more. Or you can switch to a different anesthetic altogether and achieve the same goal. Just because you start with one doesn't mean you have to finish with that one. You can switch accordingly. The only time I really something along those lines. So I was working at a small rural hospital, and the lights went out, and the generator didn't come on, and there's no windows in the OR, except at Charity Hospital where we train, which was awesome. But normally there's not. There's confined room, and so no lights, no electricity. You have to switch to the oxygen flow tank on the back of the machine and manually bag for what seemed like forever with the flashlight. And they were finishing the surgery with flashlights.
So you're holding the flashlight and pumping the machine?
Mm-hmm. I'm physically bagging the patient at that point. Yeah.
Wow.
That was unique. It's only happened once.
That's a classic helping your dad work on the car.
Right.
Move the flashlight. No.
Don't shine in my eyes.
Don't shine in my eyes.
What are you doing?
No, little left, little right. It's not okay. Just give it to me.
Right.
So now is that something you pack on every cart? Just a flashlight?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's a flashlight in every cart.
Usually there's a flashlight in every cart.
That's correct. For that reason. Situation. Yeah. It only happened once. I had to ever, usually there's a delay, like the lights will go out. And the generator usually kicks on after, at most a couple seconds, right? Like a whole house generator. It's a whole hospital generator. And then everything's fine. I'm like, okay, we'll finish up. But this time the generator did not kick on. And patient's asleep. They're doing a belly surgery, so there was no going anywhere. So they had to finish it.
No going, okay, that's lunch.
Right. That's right.
So, in that type of situation, even though it's only happened once, like, what's going through your head when that happens? Or when that happened?
Oh, well, a couple curse words that you probably don't want me to say on this, but one is I hope this flashlight don't go out. Because everybody's running around with their heads cut off at that point, right? It's kind of controlled chaos.
Right.
But, again... I've never had any experience with that, but just rely on your training. Just focus on what you can do, what you're doing, take care of the patient. So we're trained for those scenarios, believe it or not.
Yeah.
You hope to never actually have to use that scenario, but it's pounded in us. Make sure you have oxygen in your tank on the back of the machine, because if the lights go out, it's not going to work. Or the oxygen dries up. Sometimes they have piped in oxygen and something happens. You have to rely on the backup tank. So those are drilled into your head in training, and, it came in really handy for that. It didn't last long. It was probably maybe 20 minutes or so, but it seemed like a really long time when you're sitting in the dark operating with flashlights. And,
Yeah, you're counting the seconds.
yeah, it seemed like a long time.
Have you ever had anybody wake up when they weren't supposed to?
No.
I have not.
Okay, so that's just all. Is that now? Have you heard of cases where that's happened before? Because I feel like when you watch these like medical shows and everything, they make it seem like it happens.
Yeah.
I do believe it happened. I mean, obviously, it's. I think it has happened, but the medications that we have at our disposal, it's going to prevent that from happening.
Yeah.
So we just make sure we use those medicines, appropriately.
Right.
So the vast majority of people who've told me that they woke up during surgery, because they'll tell you, like, I woke up during surgery. First of all, okay, what were you having done? It's usually they were having a minor procedure where they weren't really asleep. They weren't under general anesthesia. So they were probably given a little local sedation with some sedation. They would say, I always ask them, what did you see? So if they saw it, it's usually a sedation where they're doing a minor procedure. Because in general anesthesia, your eyes are taped, so you don't get corneal abrasion, right? To protect your eyes, so you don't see anything. So if they saw anything, I know for a fact that they were just in a minor procedure, and it's not, you weren't really asleep per se. It's kind of a weird concept to understand. So you're under anesthesia under sedation, but it's just kind of like we gave you a Valium, and we're gonna localize this, and we're gonna take care of it, and you go about your day. Those are usually the cases where on the backside, when they're finished, they're kind of putting the dressing on, or they start hearing people talk, and they think that they were awake for surgery. That's the vast majority of those. There are some people that are predispositioned to use a lot of anesthesia, require a lot of anesthesia. So that's a real thing. Like the redhead people, they have genetic traits where
Like
they require a whole,
people?
like redheads.
Okay.
Yeah, gingers. No, I mean it's a legitimate thing. So they require more anesthesia than you or I.
That's fascinating.
Yeah.
Thank you to our wonderful sponsor, Lake Men's Health Center with Our Lady of the Lake Physicians Group. Guys, I know it's tough to get out and go to the doctor. I know it's challenging to find time in our busy days, but I promise you, signing up to be a part of this group with Dr. Curtis Chastain and Dr. Tyler Boudreau, you won't regret it for several reasons, but most of those being the fact of the time it saves, where you're able to get in on the same day, get that appointment done, and spend that time you need to talk with them about what your health goals and concerns are, as well as ensuring that the financial investments you have, you will be able to live out and see those come to fruition. So if you're an investing guy, you know all about and planning for the future and investing in the future. There's no other more important thing to invest in than your health. Make sure you go check them out. Our Lady of the Lake Physicians Group Men's Health Center, and tell them Patty G sent you.
All variables the same. Not
Right.
Yeah, that's a fact.
I always say, listen to your patient.
Yep.
Listen to your patient. Believe your patient. Listen to the patient.
Yeah.
Always. No matter what it sounds like, take it as a fact.
So you said local anesthesia versus like full on under. What is when you hear people hear local anesthesia, like what is that actually?
So it's usually like lidocaine,
Okay.
or Marcaine, where they, I'll use an easy example. They're going to do a carpal tunnel surgery.
Mm-hmm.
They'll inject the lidocaine. The surgeon will inject the lidocaine prior, and then we may or may not give any anesthesia for that. Some people, they do it's called a local only case. He just makes he does the lidocaine, it numbs it up. He makes the incision, does the whole procedure, patient's wide awake. Some surgeons want some sedation, so we'll give a little, it depends on the patient. There's no cookie cutter way to do it. So we may give something called Versed, which is similar to Valium, or we may give something, a little propofol, which is a little heavier sedation, but not enough to make you apneic. So it's just mild sedation. And that's all titrated by history, weight, procedure, the whole litany of issues that you go by to make sure you give the right amount for that.
Yeah. So you got to be pretty good at math to do it then.
Decent at math.
It's a help. That's definitely helpful.
So moving from that, y'all said y'all started out as a W-2 and then you went out and did this business together. When y'all started forming the business, what were some of the initial hurdles or just unknowns that hit you when you were actually going through that process?
We knew nothing about business. We had no idea about anything about business. And at the time, there was not anybody that was willing to share any pearls of the anesthesia business with us. It was seen, back then, it was seen more as a threat than it was collaborative. So everything from, organizational structure to filing taxes to benefits, 1099 versus W-2, all of those things were completely foreign to us, and we just had to go find the answers ourselves. So that was, at the same time, we were working, 50 to 60 hours a week. So what we did was we went out, and when we started calling, we found 4 or 5 hospitals very quickly that wanted to help. A lot of them were offering shift work, longer shifts. So we would devise a schedule where we would work the longer shifts, maybe 2 days a week and maybe 3 days a week at one facility. And that left us 2 days a week, 3 days a week to go somewhere else. And so it started off as 3, went to 5, to 9, to 15. And all of the facility work that we had, if a shift needed to be covered, then we covered it. We rarely, I don't know if we ever turned down any shifts. So we were doing that and then trying to, at the end of the shifts, go home and figure this stuff out.
Right.
The business side. How do we, it wasn't hard. I mean, we're going to charge X number of dollars. We're going to pay ourselves 90% of that, and 10% is going to stay in the business. And we're not going to have any expenses because we were able to control that because it's just us. We didn't have any administrative staff. We started Jeff's kitchen, then it was my kitchen, and it was my house for a long time, like probably 5 years in, 6 years in, we worked out of my house. And so we just held our bills to nothing. We never took time off. We went to one, that meeting that we had in the Caymans was probably our best meeting because when we started the company, our vacation and our CEU meeting was a French Quarter Fest in New Orleans. And so we may take that Friday off, may not, and then spend the weekend in New Orleans, and we would have a nice meal. And that was our big expense for the year for the company.
Was the nice meal.
Right, was the nice meal. We'd have the one nice meal a year. And everything else we would absorb personally or just not do it, just not spend it. And we built up the bank account and built our business just through our reputation and work ethic. Yeah. So we weren't scared to work. We weren't scared to do a case, whatever case they wanted us to do. Happy to do it. Had a smile on our face. We never complained, and that's how we kind of built the foundation for what we are today.
Gotcha. So you were happy to house it because you could take the home office deduction.
I never did. I never took the home. I take a lot of deductions, but
like the unreimbursed partner expenses, all that stuff.
I never did the home office deduction, but we have been 1099 the entire time and continue to be today just through the company.
So y'all structured as a partnership, C Corp, S Corp?
Well. We are. So we have a.
Which one?
Well, we started out
yes.
as we started out as a C Corp.
Okay.
Which, if you're a small C Corp, you can manage it very much like an S Corp.
Right.
As we grew, just recently, I mean, literally in the last 12 months, we got out of the C Corp and transitioned the partnership to an LLC. And so. So now we are the management company is an LLC. We still have individual S corps. Each of the partners do, but we're now in an LLC, and we're kind of moving out of the C corp little by little.
Yeah, it used to be very attractive.
At times it was, and it was good because you could do what was the advantageous way. If you have the C corp and it was corporate was the way to go, then you had it, and if it wasn't, then you had your personals to rely on. So it did give some advantages. But once you get to a certain point, it does become onerous, and the tax bills every quarter become really onerous. And then you take a dividend and you're paying again, and it becomes a big.
You get hit from both sides.
A big deal. Yeah.
Yes.
So, as you well know.
Yeah, and that's always the challenge.
Right.
Correct.
Right.
Is to figure out how to structure that, because we've had a few medical folks on the show, and it's one of those things that's never taught.
It's not.
Right, like you can save a life, you can't save your business. And it's like, how do we, looking ahead, better prepare those of the next generation to be able to say, we got better business training? How do they push down, even on like the elective side, right? So you got to take all those prereqs and everything, or the electives for a year. How do they encourage folks to take as many business courses as you can to get just a basic understanding of a P&L and a balance sheet?
Correct.
So I had none of that until I went back to LSU to do, to get an MBA. But I before I got my MBA, we were 15 years into it, and so I could understand our accounting.
Right.
I could understand our balance sheet, our P&L, but to hand me somebody else's, it was all foreign. I didn't, I couldn't associate the thing. So you make a great point. It's not it's not taught enough in the medical field in general, not only nursing or medicine, but just in general, physical therapy, the whole healthcare side. But I think it's getting better. I think at least in the nurse anesthesia world, at least now, if you want to start a business, there are resources that will help you start a business and kind of guide you. That wasn't always the case. But really, when we started as a C Corp, it was the one thing that you could tie anything that you wanted to into and not have to worry about it. So that's just kind of how we started. And it was fine for a long time. But when we started growing, then it started hurting.
Yeah. So it started out as just the two of you. When did y'all start bringing on more folks?
It started out as three of us.
Okay.
So it was John and I and Scott.
Got it.
Scott was in the belly up bar with us. Went through charity with us, worked all the way through. He decided to get out of the company in its infancy, personal reasons, and
it happens.
Moved to North Louisiana to be close to his family. And we worked with another one of our partners at the facility, one of the facilities we worked in, and too bad he's not here. He much more entertaining. But so he came on full bore, and then we have a physician partner also now, but came on about 5 years ago.
Yeah, 2018.
Yeah.
Okay.
We added a physician partner to the.
And so y'all still running just all the owners, or do you have employees now kind of helping facilitate and work through things?
We have a full complement now.
Yes, we have 125 employees, I guess. Now.
Ooh, okay.
Providers and administrative staff and support staff.
So how was it hiring the first one?
So the first employee we had was it was an easy hire. It was a relative of mine. And that was to try to grow the business. And we tried, I guess, maybe it was probably for a year and a half. It wasn't working out. We both knew it wasn't working out. And so that's right around when Katrina hit, and we didn't know if we were going to have a company or not. So she left, and we went back to on our own and kind of transitioned from a staffing to an anesthesia management firm, during that transition, like Jeff was saying, Jerry Peterson came on board and started working with us. Eventually became a partner with us. And when we transitioned to the management company, we had to learn how to do anesthesia billing. So I learned how to do anesthesia billing, and that added that to the list, and did the billing for a while. And it got to the point where I couldn't keep up. There was no way. And so we hired a billing person who became our office manager. And it was her and one other support person from, I would say, 2008 till she left in 2015. We just had 2 or 3 people in the office, 4 people at the most, kind of fluctuated back and forth. We lived that way for a long time. We had a $3 to $5 million company, did well, good schedule, good life. It was easy. We rode that out for a while.
You can't stay stagnant, though.
Well, we did. We had the conversation of, do we just continue this as long as we can, build a wall, see how far it goes, and when it falls apart, we'll just get a job. That's one option. The other option is we need to change who we are and try to grow. And we said, we ultimately decided that we wanted to grow. And so that $3 to $5 million mark, as a lot of people know in business, you need 3 people. You need 3 people to get you through that mark. And so we went out and took all the money we were making every year, the company was making, and we went hired 3 people. And it took them to take a pay cut, all 3 of them. And it took every dime we had to do it. But we did it, and we continued. It took a while to put the infrastructure in to get through $5 million. We didn't have that. I was the accountant. I was the biller. You can imagine what the books looked like. It was horrible. It was terrible. And then we hired some folks for a period of time, and I don't know if they were much better. But once we hired who's now our chief financial officer and chief operating officer, we were able to really formalize a lot of what we were doing, kind of build the foundation of what we are now as a company, and eventually broke through. And from 2019 up through 2023 we had pretty explosive growth. So we had to take 24 off to kind of catch up, and now we're back in growth mode.
I love it. Yeah, it's finding that when you get to that point where you're like, we can either grow or stay. Those that take the challenge to grow is exciting to see where you can go. And now you've got all those employees
right
underneath you.
Yep. So we're about to have the same conversation again. Do we stop the growth here and just grow and increase margin, or do we continue to grow and expand, continue the revenue growth and the margin growth? I think it's going to be a very similar conversation, just on a whole different level.
Right. Same potential strategy, just the numbers are different.
The numbers are different.
Yeah. A lot
The
different.
formula's different.
A lot different. Yeah, a lot different. And the risk is still there, but it's a known risk.
Correct.
Like you kind of know, okay, we got here by doing X, Y, and Z. To get better, we have to do either something different, but you kind of know, okay, worst case, if we miss and we hit on a star and not the moon, well, we're still okay.
Right.
You're not fully betting the farm like you were to breach that 5 million ceiling.
Yeah, right.
We didn't know what we didn't know back then. So now we're not the smartest people in the room. So we hired those people to help us.
Yeah, and I was raised with a similar mentality by my grandfather. It's like you don't have to be the smartest; you just have to know the smartest and have them on your team.
That's right.
Right.
So it's good to see. I'm excited to see where y'all kind of take this.
So much of what we do, especially on the business side, is just relationships. It's it's one of those things where they always come back around. And it's a lot more of, to both of your point, it's who you know and it's who can help you versus what to do or how to do it. It's who can help you get there, who can help you to do it.
Right.
And so it's been, not speaking for Jeff, but it's been way more than I ever imagined it would amount to or grow into. I think when we sat around Jerry's dining room table, 20 million was the big number, and we went from 5 to 25 million within about 8 months to 10 months of a span. And so that was expanding in 2 states, throughout, outside of Louisiana, which we had never done, and hiring markets that we had never been in, that we didn't necessarily have a bunch of relationships in. And so to your point earlier, we've kind of done a number of those things now. So the risk is more measured.
Yeah, measured and strategic.
Right.
You know how to deploy in a similar fashion and get similar results.
Right.
So just do it more times.
Do it more times, and the more you do it, the harder it is to keep your identity and keep the feel, keep the culture. But
that's right.
You just have to be insistent on that.
Yeah,
you really have to be demanded.
That's a challenging of scaling, is keeping the culture consistent,
keeping that mom and pop feel, and continue to grow that's probably the biggest challenge.
Yeah. Oh yeah, it's the one of the main challenges your team is going to see firsthand. Is as you grow, are you going to maintain what we expect and what we've come to know?
Right.
Or is there going to be a big shift and we're going to be like, okay, we're out of here? Like, we were here because X, Y, and Z. When you grew, you trimmed that off, so now we're out.
Right.
So it's good to see that it's still staying and still kind of continuing.
Still there.
Love
Still
it.
there.
So as we begin to wrap up the show, we have a set list of questions we ask every guest. So the first one is, what is something you did as a kid you wish you could still do today? This time, we're going to put you in the hot seat to go first.
Dunk a basketball.
Okay, that's a good one.
Probably play sports as well as I did. More active.
Love it. So what is a lesson that each of you have learned along the way?
I think the biggest thing that I learned, we brought on Chief Strategic Officer Larry Hornsby in 2017, and he was really instrumental in the growth. He had the relationships, and he was able to foster a lot of that and help us in that with the growth. And I think that's the biggest, like I just said, the biggest thing is the relationships, how you treat people, how you conduct your business, the reputation that you have within the profession and within the healthcare side that really is, it takes so much to build and earn, and it can go away so quickly. So I think relationships for me.
Yeah. So we rely on clinical excellence. So it's kind of the low bar. So we expect that from everybody. That's kind of a given. And then like he was saying, so the personal relationships are key to everything. So Jerry, who's not here today, he's up in New York at the U.S. Open, I believe, with his wife. He's that guy. So he's a guy that talks a little while. He'll be your best friend in 5 minutes. Everybody loves Jerry. And then Scott has that relationship with the physicians. That's the biggest part of it. Like I said, the personal relationships, as we kind of beat over and over, that's really the most important thing.
I love it. So what is something you love about Louisiana?
Ooh, well, born and raised here, so the food and the people, the soul. You go to other places. My 3 best friends growing up that I've known since I was 4 or 5 years old all live in Texas. And I always tease them because the places they live, it's like it doesn't have a soul. It doesn't have staying power. It's like a transitory, transactional type environment. And I think Louisiana is very different in that regard.
Similar answer: culture and family. So that's the two keys. Food doesn't hurt.
Food ain't bad, that's for
Food
sure.
doesn't hurt. But when we travel around, we always have the mindset of where we're going to go eat, where are we going to eat, because that's just how we think. The food usually never measures up to home. I try to warn people that just don't go expecting your food to be as good as home, because it's not going to be. But the culture here is, we've all heard it 100 times. I'm native Louisianan also, but you don't realize it until you go out, how different it actually is, until you go out and about and realize, like, wow, we are kind of strange and different in our own unique ways. So it's culture and family, of course. You got to live about 2 blocks from your mama. So if you can get a girl out of Louisiana, you've done something.
Yeah, you've done something. You've done measurable. So for the final question, what can I do to help y'all?
I think this was good. One of the things that we're looking at doing going forward in the future is doing these types of podcasts just to be the expert in anesthesia and to help educate others, about the practice, about the business, about the challenges, and use this type of forum to help those that may need some questions answered.
I don't think I have a better answer than that.
Sounds like you need a call-in show. You can get listeners call in,
Right.
Get your questions answered about anesthesiology.
Our audience is very, very specific. It's not very big.
And usually captive.
Well, I think you have a room for an audience of patients also, right? Because to your point, you have 2 to 5 minutes you're spending with them. They don't know. They just assume you're doing whatever needs to be done. But I think it's, a place for patients to learn a little bit more about what happens behind shut eyes. Like what's taking place when the procedure is happening. It's always a question, if not for the patients, for the loved ones in the waiting room. They know that, the big ticket item is the procedure, but it's also, to your point, they could have an allergic reaction to whatever you're going to give them if they didn't disclose X, Y, Z, if they didn't say this or they say that, or you've got some folks that take it worse than they told you they were going to take it, and then you have trouble waking them up. Like, there's so many variables. Right. I think a patient or even a person in the waiting room for that patient is an audience member of whatever y'all got to say on the education front.
Yeah. So we did address some of that years ago with our website. So we kind of came up with questions that patients would ask, and then we put the questions and the answers on the website. And I think that's becoming more common nowadays, where you can go to websites and kind of look those things up. Or, when we first started that, it didn't exist. Right. It is becoming more common.
It's kind of unique because I always separate. We have clients and then we have consumers. And so, who do we serve? Well, there's a bunch of people, and our clients are the facilities that we actually have the contracts with and we do business with. And the consumers are, like you're saying, the patients and the surgeons. And so maintaining all three of those in a, good alignment and cohesive, collaborative way is a challenge. And each has a number of questions and probably education to be done that all are very different. Yeah, all are very different.
Absolutely. Well, looking forward to seeing what springs up on y'all's end. So thank y'all so much for coming in and taking
Thank you for having us. We appreciate it.
Thank you. Appreciate
Absolutely. It. So thank you, everybody else, for listening or watching, whatever platform you're consuming us on. If you have any questions, write the show. We'll connect you with these guys, make sure those are answered, and point you to whatever they are creating in the future, and hopefully be able to answer that as well. So thank y'all so much. We'll see you next week.